Today we're going to make our Char Siu Baos. It's a new recipe, but we'll see how it goes. One of the first things that I'm going to do is activate my yeast. So what I have here is some warm water, and in this recipe it calls for 3/4 of a cup of warm water, and dissolve it into the water that I just set aside, because that'll help to activate my yeast. Let me give it a mix so I can dissolve it. The amount of yeast that I need is 1 teaspoon. So let me just feel the water to make sure it's warm but not too hot. It feels good. So we're going to go ahead and activate my yeast in there. And the temperature of your water, if you want to measure, should be about between 110 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. And we'll let it rest and develop for about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, while we're waiting for the yeast to activate, I'm going to go ahead and put my ingredients into the mixing bowl. So what I have here is 2 cups of flour, and the flour that I'm going to use for this bowl, is a Korean flour. So 2 cups into my mixing bowl. And I also had to use some cornstarch. And I'll go ahead and put that with my flour. So I have 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. I have all my ingredients in here with the dough hook attachment. Add in the rest of the water, which was in total should be 2/3 of a cup, and it should be warm water. I'm going to add in my 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. If it's looking a little dry, you can add in a little bit more water, like a teaspoon at a time. I think I'm going to add a little bit more water because I can see that it's still dry, a little dry looking at the bottom of the bowl. I think we'll let this dough knead for about maybe 5 minutes or so, and then I'm going to put it in another bowl and let it rest for about an hour and a half. This is the bowl that I'm going to use to have my flour proof in. I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in the bottom so it doesn't stick. And then I'll go ahead and spread it around. Okay, my dough, I think it's ready to go into the proofing bowl. It seems to be all formed together. And it looks pretty smooth. I'm going to go ahead and feel it to see what it feels like. Okay, it feels pretty good. And let me form it into a ball and get it ready for the bowl. There goes my baby. So while we're waiting for the dough to rise, we're going to go ahead and prepare our filling, which is char siu. Now you can buy this in a Chinatown or you can make it yourself. So I made this myself, and we are going to need 1.5 cups of chopped char siu. So let me go ahead and And I think I want finely chopped, so that's why I'm going over it again with a knife. Okay, that's about 1/2 of a cup. Another thing that we are going to need to put in our filling is chopped shallots. Okay, here are my shallots. So we need 1/3 of a cup of shallots chopped. Or you can use onions if you don't have shallots. A yellow onion or a red onion would be fine. Okay, here's 1 shallot chopped up. Let's see how much that equals. If I said I needed 1/3 of a cup. I think actually 1/3 of a cup is probably equal to 1 shallot. It's just so you guys know. Okay, yeah. So 1/3 of a cup of shallots is approximately equal to a shallot, 1 shallot about this size. Okay, our first ingredient is going to be 1 tablespoon of oil, vegetable oil. I need 1 tablespoon of sugar. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of soy sauce. Our last ingredient is going to be 2 tablespoons of flour. And we're going to give it all a mix. And put this back in the fridge while we're waiting for the dough to proof. Okay, I'm mixing it up, and I'm thinking that this looks not way, but it looks actually pretty soupy. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut up more char siu and put this in here. Okay, I added 1/3 cup more of char siu because it looked a little bit watery to me. So I'm giving it a mix, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, it looks much better. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the fridge while we wait for our dough to cook. I made a big mistake in doing the filling. I'm supposed to cook it first in separate stages, but we're just going to cook the whole thing at once. Just to soften up the shallots and to cook the flour that we put into the filling. So I'm going to add a little oil and cook our filling now. That's probably why it was so watery before. It's supposed to cook it. Okay, it's bubbling. I think I'm just going to cook it for maybe 2 minutes or so. So we're going to go ahead and put it back in our bowl and let this cool off. Now we're going to go to the second phase of working with the dough. So it has actually risen. I say about double the size that it was originally. So we're going to go ahead and put this back in the mixer. And we're going to add in 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder and mix it up in there. Now the recipe says that if it looks dry, then I would add in a little bit more water. So let's see how it looks. Okay, so 2.5 teaspoons. 1. 2. And I said baking powder, right? Okay. It looks like it's incorporating pretty well. It doesn't look too dry yet, so let me take a look. Okay, basically I will be kneading this dough until it looks smooth. It looks like my baking soda is all incorporated in there, so I'm not going to worry too much that it's kind of dry. Been kneading for about 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. And then I will need to actually let the dough rest for another 15 minutes. Okay, let me take a feel and see what it feels like. And just gather the dough together in one ball while it's resting. Okay, so we're going to let this rest for 15 minutes. Okay, while you're letting your dough rest for 15 minutes, you can go ahead and cut up some squares of parchment paper because you're going to need that to put your buns on. And another thing that you want to do is you want to go ahead and get your pots of water ready for steaming. Okay, my dough's been resting for about 15 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and work with it again. So what I want to do is get it out on my surface, my rolling surface. And knead it for a few minutes. And I am going to go ahead and cut these into 10 equal pieces. Go ahead and make a ball. Go in the middle. And then make like a ring. Try to get it into an even shaped snake. Okay, let's try to get 10 pieces out of here. Up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's just see how much they weigh. And I'm going to try to make them all as even as possible. Okay, that one's 63 grams. Let's see if they're all about 63. Oh yeah, 65. Okay, the smart thing to do would have been to weigh my dough when it was still in a ball, got the whole weight, and then divided it by 10, so I could have an idea of how much each ball should be. But anyways, I figured out that should be about 65 grams to 66 grams. So after you have it approximately 65 to 66 grams, what I would like to do, or what I always do, is I will go ahead and roll them up into a ball. So that way when I make my my flat round shapes, they will be easier. Because if you leave them in this shape, they will actually be really hard to get it and roll it out with your rolling pin into a circular shape. So I'm going to go ahead. Roll these into balls first. And keep them covered while you're rolling each one. Okay, so all my balls have been rested and formed. And I like to keep a piece of plastic wrap over it so it doesn't dry out while you're working on making your buns. So basically what I want to do is smooth it out into a disc that's about, I think, maybe 4.5 to 5 inches wide, about the size of your palm. And I will also want to make sure that my edges are thinner than my middle. So once I form it into a disc, then I go ahead and I start rolling and pushing out the edges to try to thin out the edges more as you expand your circle and you make your circle bigger. That looks about good, about the size of my palm. And you want to take about 1 full spoon of dough. I'd say this is maybe about a tablespoon. I'm sorry, not of dough, of filling. And I will go ahead and grab between my thumb and my forefinger a dough, and I'll start pinching it to make a pleat. And you basically want to pull and pinch, lightly pull and pinch, and keep going around in a circle. Then when you get to the end, you're basically gonna pinch together and hopefully which I didn't do a good job because my filling I kind of came out. But, so it'll basically look like that. And put it on top of a piece of parchment paper. Let me go ahead and do the next one.
Okay, so basically I'm rolling it out into a circular shape, a disc, and I'm looking for a size of about 4.5 to 5 inches, and I also want the edges to be thinner than the middle. Okay, once I get it to about this size, then I'll start just rolling out the edges. As I push edges of the dough, you should say you mean one filling of fillings. You said dough, one filling of dough. Okay, I'll go ahead and put in about one.
So I'm going to go ahead and take an edge between my index finger and my thumb. I'll go ahead and start making the pleats. So turning as I pull. As I get near the last one, I will go ahead and sort of twist it around and close the top. So it looks like that. And I will go ahead and put it on top of a piece of paper. And we'll go on to the next one. All my buns are made, so I'm going to go ahead and put them on boiling water. Now this recipe does not let your buns rise. So we're just going to do it the way that they recommend. So I've already started my water and I brought it to boil. I turned it down right now so that I can put my steamer basket in. And we're going to go ahead and put the other one here. And we need to steam them on high heat for 12 minutes. Okay, the recipe doesn't say we let them sit in the steamer for whatever minutes, so we're just going to go ahead and lift and see if it did the crack, like the way it does in the bakeries in Chinatown. Wow, it did crack open. Okay. That's kind of amazing. Doesn't look like the way it does in Chinatown, but it split open. Okay, and this one too. Oh, wow. It did. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty juicy. Look at all the juice in there. Cool. Okay, let's see how they look. Oh, they feel very soft. Oh, they look very juicy. Oh wow, they are very fluffy. Okay, let me try. Okay, I have to say, that was pretty good.